This is the Elevated Grapes Podcast.
Elevated Grapes Podcast.
With your host, Sethee.
Your host, Sethee.
And stylist, Rashi Bindra.
It's time to get started.
Let's talk fashion, shall we? Welcome to Elevated Grapes. I am your host, Sethee.
And I am stylist Rashi Bindra.
Stylist Rashi Bindra, do you know who we have on the show today?
I am so excited for who we have today that I cannot wait. I literally jumped out of my bed this morning and I probably put a little bit more effort into my outfit than I normally do for the podcast. Sorry guys, this is how excited I am. I'm gonna let Sadr do the introduction because he speaks certain times better than I do. But this woman she is inspiring. She is my mentor. She's the reason I am here where I am today. And I'm able to do what I do today as well. But she truly is a force to be reckoned with. That's how I'm going to start off this introduction.
I think you're so excited that you're not even sitting on the couch just so you don't fall off.
I'm sitting on the floor.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, you're keeping yourself safe. That's important. So let's give her an introduction. Without further ado, we want to welcome Noelly Sam to the show. She is a boss woman to the T, from Miss Lai to being the creator and founder of Fashion Unfold Global, the first Twitter fashion debate going back to 2010, so running that for some time. She is now the host and boss of Women Unfold and Unfold Media. Noelly ran an award-winning blog till 2013, and then in 2017 launched Unfold Media. That was a social media agency that evolved into a digital media company focused on women. So a really strong resume there. There's a bunch of amazing awards too. So we're going to mention a couple of them. Notable Regional Award for Best Social Media Strategist in 2016. Best Use of Twitter Award in June of 2014 from the Bureau, and I'm not going to pronounce it in French because I'll mess it up.
It's French.
Bureau de Mode de Montreal. Rashi, you're going to say that part properly.
That was amazing. You were so good.
That's the extent of my French. So Noelly, your reputation precedes you. Thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Well, thank you for having me. And it's always a bit awkward to hear people talking about what you've done, because not that I don't remember it, but it's done and you sort of put it in the back, and focus on what's ahead. But those things did happen. So thanks for the reminder.
As a boss lady, you gotta get used to that, because you're gonna hear it over and over. The more things you continue to do, you're going to hear it over and over from people as they talk about you.
Okay, well, hopefully it's good and it actually empowers them to do great things themselves, hopefully.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit in your words about we gave a bit of an intro, but we'd love to hear in your words a little bit about your story.
Oh, wow. My story, well, to keep it super simple and short, because how much time do we have? I'm not sure anymore.
We have as much time as you want.
We have a lot of time. We're going to hear the story.
Okay, well, the long story short is that I'm an immigrant. I'm from Congolese background. I moved to Canada in 2000, so I've been in Canada for 20 years. And I'm originally French speaking. And so French is my first language. And when I moved here, I already knew that I wanted to speak English more than anything else. It wasn't about how much money do I want to make, what do I want to become. No, I want to be bilingual. And I certainly want to be as proficient as possible, as quick as possible. So when I first arrived, I lived in Ottawa, Ontario before. So my first landing was Montreal, but then we drove to Ottawa, and I stayed in Ottawa about 8 years. In Ottawa, I worked and did different things, because when I arrived, I started university, but everything was so foreign for me in terms of you left Central Africa, did a little stint in Europe, France, and then you're in North America, and everything is completely different, including the weather. And so I felt that I wanted to understand the world of adult, like the corporate world, the get your job, more than anything else. So when I started to work, I did a lot of different jobs, and I ended up in the corporate. And corporate was in one of Canada's top telecommunication company. And I moved up the ladder over a period of 6-7 years. And that was from 2003 to 2008. And 2008 is when I actually started to feel that I have a good job. I make decent money. Heck, I have bonuses at the end of the year. So I'm good, but it's not very fulfilling. And somehow for the first time, I started to question if I really was happy in what I was doing. And because I'm sure for a lot of people, sometimes there's a catalyst, like a moment, an event in your life that happens that changes your perspective on what you were accustomed to or used to, or at least makes you look at things from a different angle. And for me, it was the passing of a good friend's mom. She was like a mother to us. And when she passed suddenly, literally, it was like you talk on the phone Thursday and Saturday you get the call that she's been rushed to the hospital and Sunday it's finished. She had an aneurysm. So for me, it was like, wait a minute, I'm 27 years old. Things can go just boom and it's finished. That's it. And it's not, and she was, early 50s. She was healthy. There was no sign that something like that could happen. And for me as an adult, it was the first time that I faced death. And for the first time, I asked myself, is this, if today everything was to be finished for me and I have this corporate job and I'm doing, a great salary, would I really feel like this is it for me? And the answer was no. And so I thought, okay, so what do I want? I'm like, well, I have pile of magazines everywhere. I've been obsessed with them since I was a child. Literally, magazines raised me. And I thought, what if I joined, like very naive, what if I joined a magazine as a writer? I'd love to do that and write about fashion and, lifestyle. So very naively, I thought I just have to write to a magazine editor and ask for a job. I mean, I still have a full-time job, so I'm not worried about money. I'm just thinking I want to do something I love. And I ended up sending emails at the time, like actually writing emails to the editor-in-chief of Flair magazine and Fashion magazine, Fashion Canada, and actually genuinely asking, hey, I'd love to be part of your team. Obviously, the answer was no, because who are you? I mean, we have never heard of you. Have you completed any degree in journalism? Like, just what are you doing? So obviously the answers were no. And I talked about it with my sister and friends, and they're like, Noelly, you have too much of an opinion. Every time we dress, you criticize us. You on the street, you're giving opinion about people you don't know. Unsolicited advice. You know what? If you're not going to get a job, at least do it for fun and maybe start a blog. And that's 2008. So the language even to blog, it was like, write something online. People read it. I'm like, oh, okay. So I came up with the blog Miss Sly in early 2008. And the name is because Sly was my nickname. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to call it Noelly Sam because I still have a real job. And who knows how this is going to go, right? So let's create an avatar. And so I did the Miss Sly blog. And I was in Ottawa when I started that. And one thing led to another. There was Project Runway Canada in its second season was shooting in Ottawa somehow. Why? But because there was the Aviation Museum and it was a very good venue. And I saw the ad in an elevator at an event. And I remember saying to myself, wait a minute, I'm in Ottawa. And there's an ad about Project Runway Canada shooting here in this city that has, in my opinion, no sense of fashion. Well, that means it's here for me. So I contacted CTV, I think at the time, and said, listen, I have a blog. I write about fashion. I'd love to interview the designers and create content for your show that's about to air in January. They said yes, because there was not a lot of people pitching at the time. So if you pitched and said that you were an expert, they believed you. I mean, they had nothing to lose. It's free content, free PR. Why not? So I ended up getting access to all these designers, doing interviews via email and sometimes on the phone, and really releasing content every week, hyping up the premiere of the show. So one thing led to another. When I covered the entire season and made it fun, the designers and their PR team were sharing it with their network. So when the show came to the season finale, which was shooting at Toronto Fashion Week, they literally said, okay, you know what? We loved your coverage and we'd like to invite you to meet the designers at Toronto Fashion Week. So you get to come to Toronto Fashion Week, be part of the taping of the final episode where Iman and G. Baker were, hosting the event and all, and meet everybody. And that's how I ended up at Fashion Week for the first time. That was like what entered me in the creative world, really, was a little bit of boldness and a lot of being naive and just going for it. And from there, one thing led to another. I did, Toronto Fashion Week, Montreal Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week. And before you know it, I was so immersed into this newfound passion that my job became so further from my heart. And I ended up losing my job. So I moved to Montreal with a job, started to blog, and was like, okay, I'm going to work for another year, save some money, and then I'll be on my own. And when you put out an intention of what you want, that's my lesson to anyone. If you listen to the podcast and you're going to tune out, if you said you want to do something and you really feel strong about it, get it done when the intention is strong. So you choose the terms of how you want it to go to the maximum. Because if you don't, it will still happen, but you may not like how it happens. And so when you say, I'm not sure I like my job anymore, start planning something on the side. If you say, I'm not sure I should be in this relationship, have the talk and at least see where things could go. Because if it's not you, the other person will end it. And if it's not you moving out, you may lose your job. So I ended up losing my job when I was not ready for it. And I thought, well, I kind of got what I wanted, not how I wanted. So now what do? Do I go back and get another job? Or do I pursue this and see where it takes me? I have a little bit of money to survive maybe for just about a year. We'll see. And so that's what I did. I ended up in Montreal, and I threw my whole self into fashion, blogging, fashion journalism at the time. And it opened so many doors. I ended up learning about the world of PR, communication, events, and networking to another level. Like, I consider myself to be not shy, but not necessarily a super social person. But when I had to throw myself in an event environment where you know no one, and unless you talk to them, they're not coming to you, shyness had to be thrown out the door. It was like, go talk to people, hand your card, and what we call today, like, hustle, basically. So I did that, and it was good. And that's how Fashion Unfold came to be, the Twitter debate. So long story short, I literally came here as an immigrant, didn't really speak English, learned English through my various experience, had a job, loved the job, then hated the job, lost the job, found the passion, followed the passion, and running the passion to the point where I was like, okay, this is great, but I'm not going to buy a house or really become wealthy by sipping free champagne at events. So I have to figure something out. And that's what led me into the next chapter of my life, which was, okay, if fashion isn't going to pay you as a fashion blogger, what else can you do? And I had amassed skills from social media strategy that I thought I could leverage those skills for others. And that's how I approached the Employment Quebec government with an idea to start a firm, a consulting firm for fashion brands as a social media strategist. And that's what started me as a freelancer, and then later on having, an agency. But it was really, I learned along the way everything. Like, I made so many mistakes because it was just like, I don't know this, I'll figure it out. And one thing led to another. I ended up, I had to reinvent myself a lot and be okay with that and not be attached to titles. Oh, I'm a blogger, so I have to stay that. Or, oh, I don't know if I want to be a freelancer, or I'm an agency owner and I can. No, for me, it's like, am I happy in what I'm doing? Am I making an impact? Am I making a difference? And if not, what needs to change? So that has been my motto, and I keep doing that. So that's where I am right now. I'm reinventing myself again. So we'll see how that goes. Long story. I think the blog, the podcast is done. I mean, that is everything.
No, barely. So I don't know, because I know the story, so I want you to ask those questions before I jump in.
Well, no, I was just gonna make a comment more than I just feel like that you mentioned on the sort of got you that strength in the situation.
I couldn't hear you at the beginning.
I said for you, I think your biggest strength was the naivety going into the different projects, because other people, if they have a certain mindset towards an industry or a type of work, that may be also a lagger for them that would pull them back or make them hesitate to go forward. Whereas you went in with a confidence, not knowing what the outcome will be, but that's also what kind of catapulted you into the success that you got out of it.
Well, absolutely. I think that sometimes what you don't know is a strength, but also can be a weakness down the road. I did not know that I couldn't just contact the TV station and ask. I did not know that. But I also did not know that I had to do a market research to know how to market my service. So yes, I got in, and quite frankly, I wasn't surprised because I thought I can actually write. why wouldn't they want to read it? Like, it was just that confidence, maybe from the fact that my dad is a he's retired, but he was a journalist for his whole life. So we watched him prepare his show at home. We went to the TV station and the radio station with him, watched him rehearse. It was like genetically encoded maybe, but at the same time, I didn't think it was something difficult. I thought, I like it, I'm going to write about it. You get to tell me what to change, and we go from there. And so definitely naive, but also really determined, because I just had faced, again, like a loss, and I thought, what do I have to lose? If anything, it doesn't work out, I'll have a good story to tell and move on, right? So I think for me, it was like, just go for it. And if you have to figure it out, do it quickly. That's another thing. Learn quickly, fail quickly. I've had some failures that I think in hindsight, I dwelled too long on them. Like, oh, this session. If it sucks, it sucks. Please just move on. It's hard, but cry for 5 minutes and get over it, because life doesn't wait for you to feel better. It doesn't, So you got to just push yourself and think about it this way. If today's your last day, are you happy with the day? And if you're not, what can you do different,
You mentioned something. And that's very important what you just said, because, for example, you have a lot of people that, I'm not happy in my job, I'm not happy with my life, I'm not happy with my relationship, just like you were saying earlier. And whether or not you actually get success out of it the way you did, or the way we've seen some other people do, but you've picked something that is of interest to you, or that you have a passion for, that brings you happiness. And even if you're doing it like you started off as a hobby, or something that's going to give you the outlet to get that part of your creative side out, or that passion, and put it into play in the world and put it out for people to see, it's going to bring you a level of happiness, even if it doesn't go anywhere, right?
It's the fulfilling of it, and it's the pursuit of it. Because, like, I used to think, oh, when I am going to I'm going to feel this way and that way. But guess what? When you get there, you have other problems. Like, I remember being in the corporate world, to step away from the creatives, because people sometimes think, oh, those creative people. No. I was actually in the corporate world. So for me, in the corporate world was, okay, I'm taking calls in the telecommunication company. I'm very good at sales, because I do understand how to talk to people, but I could do more than that. So, you know what? In 6 months, when they do my review, I'd love to be a coach. I'd love to show people how I sell. No one's telling me, be a coach. I'm thinking, you want to make as much money as I make on sales, so why not showing it to you? And then that I guess that personality trait made me focus on what's next for me. And then I thought, oh, when I'm going to be a manager, oh, it's going to be sweet. And I became a manager. And I'll tell you, I became a manager the year the loss happened. And so I was there as a manager with a really high pay, and then the loss, and I was like, oh, okay, so I'm a manager. I get to work from home. I get to travel. That's sweet, but is it really? And so if I wasn't enjoying the grind of I'm getting good sales and I'm coaching, then I would have gotten to the final destination and be like, well, that's kind of a bummer. So I now more than ever enjoying the journey, and it does come with ups and downs and ups and downs. And if you're an entrepreneur, that's just the way it is. Some years you're going to make so much money that you're going to think, whoa, what's going on? Like, am I that good? And some years you'll be like, I'm working hard. Where's the money? What's going on? Or where are the contacts? Where are the opportunities? It's just the way it goes. It was summer, and now it's going to be fall, and it's going to get cold again. And if you complain about, winter is so long, I mean, there's going to be summer, but maybe you should learn how to ski. I don't know.
Learn something different. There's one thing I do want to highlight. So, I met you when you were starting Miss Sly, and I think I met you 2009. So 1 year after Miss Sly was happening.
Yeah.
And this is where now, when I look back in hindsight, we are very similar, because I don't have a fashion journalism background. I, at that time, had zero fashion background. My fashion knowledge was from Jeannie Becker on the fashion TV and watching a little bit of Montreal Fashion Week and all of those things. And I remember, I think, emailing you saying, I want to write for Miss Sly. I want to be a blogger. And then we got on a call, and it was a really odd time in the afternoon that was working out for you. and I was coming home to the West Island. So I'm also from Montreal originally. Coming home from the West Island in the bus at that time, very crowded, jam-packed, trying to listen to you, holding dearly for life on the pole. And I think you were asking me to like commit to something, and I had no fucking clue how to write or do or even design. And at that time, we did not have Canva or anything like that. I think to even like design part of like the blog, and I was like, yeah, so when do you need it by?
That's it.
Like, well, when do you need it by? Yeah, absolutely. And then I remember we were covering some new designer or someone that I thought was like that would fit the blog or whatever, and I was just using my dad's car and driving around everywhere trying to find this designer and watch the show and then write about it. And I was like, I love this idea of this blog and Miss Sly. And then Fashion Unfold started happening. And I'm like, I want to be part of this. No clue, by the way, how to use Twitter. No clue the whole idea of why, you know, and how that was going to explode the way it did, which is what we'll get into. But what I do want to point out is that what you were also doing is that you were bringing on other people into your world, and people didn't realize there are other gifts or other talent, skills, and abilities into the fashion world. Like I remember we did an event at the W. It was under, I believe, Miss Sly at the time for like Michael Erdley at the moment. Yeah. And he's with Frank Denote now, but and I. He's
like,
moved on from it. I've not been following him since a couple of years.
Only like early last year that he moved to a different company, but he stayed there like 5 years at least.
Yeah, he stayed there a really long time.
And he turned around. Wow.
But yeah, he did turn his life around. Oh my God, his story is also very, very incredible. Yeah, but I think that's also partly due to you and your influence. I should reach out to him actually. It's been a while since I've spoken to him. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, like it was, you kind of, so in what you were doing is that you were also opening up these doors for like other people where we didn't realize these other talents and skills existed. It was like you said, we loved fashion, we loved talking about it, we loved giving our opinions, you know, and I think taking out the whole like title aspect, which is something I'm still very strongly passionate that Toronto has that whole like title and feeling like you have to have this label on you and all of that stuff, which Montreal didn't have at the time. And I still don't think they have that sort of mentality. It's more like if you love it, you kind of do it. But again, I could be wrong on that now. But at that time, I think that's how Miss Life was growing to a level that you wanted it to grow. And then Fashion Unfold started happening. And that was where we were able to start talking about our opinions without being scared, like without censoring our opinions. And I think that was the part how it kind of exploded on social media, not knowing how Twitter, I at that point didn't know how Twitter worked to that extent. And then the next thing you know, you called me in 2016 or 17 to run it for a while.
Nothing major.
Just like broke your arm and there you go.
Well, I think that's true because Twitter started, and the thing you mentioned about censorship, when fashion blogging exploded, and just like anything, everybody wants to belong. Everybody wants to be accepted, to be part of, and you don't want to be the outcast that somewhat points something that's not working and makes a big deal about it. Not that you shouldn't, but it's not always easy to be the first sort of, not troublemaker, but peace disturber, right? The disruptor.
Troublemaker.
It's not always easy to disrupt because you don't know how things are going to fall. And if you really are anchored in acceptance, then it becomes hard. But again, when I started Fashion Unfold, it wasn't, let's become these disruptors that are going to unleash the beast. It was none of that. It was literally going to Toronto Fashion Week and Montreal Fashion Week simultaneously. And I remember I bought stuff from designer whenever I could afford it. I'd see something that I loved on the runway and I would go behind, backstage, talk with the designer, finish the interview and buy a piece. If not, Can I wear this piece and promote it so that you can get sales? My goal was always, if you love it and you do it, somehow you should be able to live from it, make a living, you know. And when I went to, it was Toronto Arts and Fashion Week, which was more on the art side of things. And it was FAT, right? The fashion art movement, where it was like you use any type of material, like it's almost like a Project Runaway galore of this, I mean, lettuce if you want, or tires and belts from airplane, and make outfits. So designers would use a lot of creative fabrics and materials and do this whole show and showcase their talent. And it was amazing. It's like art. But then at the end, when I would have conversations with them in events and with drinking, having, you know, for me, it was always water. And we're talking, and sometimes the designers will tell you, well, you know, I just do it because I love it, but I still have to figure out how to pay my bills. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Yeah, you know, even when we do these shows and all this money and we spend and we show and we don't make money. It's like, what? Oh, wait, you're not making money off of this. So for me, it was like, wait a minute. We all come to the event. We all tweeted about it. At the time, it was not so much Instagram. We all going to write articles about it on our blog, but no one's actually putting money in their pockets. So what are we actually doing? Are we just doing this to inflate our own ego, to, you know, feel good? But in this, you know, what is it that we're doing? So I had so many questions with no answers that I thought, where else am I going to ask those questions? So I came and I talked to another friend from Toronto who I had the conversation with, and Marcus at the time. And I said, Marcus, you know, what do you think about that? He said, oh, you know, and then we sort of somewhat had the same questions and no answers, or at least not enough, that we thought, okay, well, let's start a conversation online and invite whomever wants to join to have this conversation, at least to have to raise awareness about the issue. And that was the first subject. It was like, oh, let's do it on a Tuesday afternoon and chill, and but the focus was, let's choose a hashtag that will be unique enough that it's not flooded with everything else, so that we can track it back and see what the answers were. That was the whole point. That was it. And then one afternoon, oh, that was great. Few people came in, different people from the industry. My goodness, let's do it again next week. So it started on a weekly basis. And then next thing you know, after 7, 8, it's like, wait, whoa. Do we have something going on here? Should we do something with it? And I thought, you know what? Yeah, why not? Because it seems like it's what people want. So let's see. So that's how Fashion Unfold started. And what was good about it is that you could still write your articles that were more polished, but at least during the Twitter debate, you had this 1 hour of just more like what we're doing right now in the podcast, just a very genuine conversation. And after that, you're done. You can, you know, go on to whatever you want to do. But even then, as it grew and became much bigger, I noticed how people would censor themselves, because now they're like, oh, this thing is big enough that everybody's looking at it. If I say the wrong thing, brands are not going to want to work with me. And that's when I would bring subjects like, you know, genuine content versus advertising, and how, you know, influencer marketing coming into the picture may compromise how bloggers wanted to be positioned at the beginning. For me, it was just, I guess you call it investigative journalism curiosity, because I thought, you know, if you're going to be about something, be about it.
But there were also certain topics, and just to backtrack a bit, it slowly became every month, and then we had the whole countdown thing, and people were really excited, and we were counting down till the hour, and then that hour it was literally 140 characters back and forth, going everywhere, keeping track of everything. But there were also topics that were controversial that people, the whole Twitter jail actually happened because we were just going at a speed where even Twitter could not keep up with us. When Kanye and Kim came on the cover with Vogue, and like the whole Beyonce thing even, and the whole Rihanna thing, and there were other conversations where we could not tweet for a while. We literally were in jail.
So such a shame. They should not put us in Twitter jail, but I mean,
absolutely not.
Life we chose. The Twitter life, no, I didn't choose that. The Twitter life chose me. But I think that it was, for me, even when I decided to end the blog, because again, I always go back to impact, intention, and actual quantifiable results. I thought, okay, I did the blog, it's great, and I'm loving what I do, but at the same time, I don't think the impact that I want to make, I'm able as a blogger, and I'm also not generating an income that is sustainable enough for me. And now my savings are done. So what are we going to do, right? So that's when I thought, okay, and that's when I pitched the idea to do a social media consultancy with fashion designers originally, because I thought they're not making money. If I can help them with my sales background and social media skills and love for fashion to navigate social media in a way that becomes a tool for their marketing, then so be it, right? And that's how I ended up being funded to start my firm, because there was this program that's, I would say, a government version of Shark Tank, where you go and you pitch your idea, and if your idea is sustainable and they think there's potential, you get approved for a grant for 1 year. And the grant is conditional to having a solid business plan. So you get 6 months support. After 6 months, they review your business plan. If your business case is solid, you get the other 6 months. And that's what basically gave me the boost and the financial stability and confidence to go into the world of consulting, because I realized, wait, I really believed it, but then I had to do my market research for the first time, 5 years after having a blog, right? Anybody listening, or if you just jumped in, if you like something and you want to go into it, please do a market research. It won't hurt you. Just find out what your market is about, how much money there is to make, so you don't go in there with total, warped vision. And for the first time, I actually had to sit down and do a market research, very in-depth about the social media world. And we're in 2013, and my forecast was, okay, well, 5 years from now, everybody's going to need Instagram to do their business. It's going to become the new website. And having that and seeing how many users in Canada are growing every month compared to, let's say, the United States and the rest of the world, is like, oh my goodness, this is actually going to take off. Social media is actually going to become a strong part of marketing. So they saw it too, and that's what gave me the confidence to close the blog. And it was hard. It was painful.
I remember that moment. I remember that moment very, very well.
It was a day where I said, all right, today's the day I bury you, little one. It's been great. Thank you for everything you brought to me, because you have to make peace with things. And I just remember that day I lie down in my bed, staring at the ceiling for like what seemed to be hours. And I was like, wow. And then flashbacks of what I sacrificed to get to this point. But if it's over, did I fail? And if I failed, then was it worth it? And then I was like, oh, okay. So I think I succeeded to do it. I did it. I went around. I went to New York, and Fashion Unfolded would not have happened without
if it wasn't for Miss Lai.
And so I thought, okay. So I was ready to close Fashion Unfolded too. And then I was like, but they still want to do it. These people, they still want to tweet. Okay, fine. We'll keep going.
Just on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and then we will come back and talk about how we continued Fashion Unfold, how we rebranded it in New York, how we stayed up all night drinking wine from a box.
Crazy.
And we did WeWork when WeWork was not even in Canada at that time. But we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back to that story.
That works for me.
So everybody, welcome back to Elevated Grapes. I am stylist Rashi Bindra with host Sethee. Sorry, Sadar, I just jumped in there because
run it.
We're going back to this amazing conversation that I'm having with boss lady Noelly Sam, who is my mentor, and I'm going to keep saying that because we all here because of her. So we were talking about Miss Lai and the closing of Miss Lai. And I remember when you told me that, I felt like I was losing a baby. So I can only imagine what you were going through at that time. Because somehow it became my adopted child, as I used to call it. And I remember that was a very, very difficult moment for both of us. So yeah, let's let them know how it went down.
I think that what's interesting and what people may have not realized, because I wasn't sharing it, I was over Miss Lai a year and a half before I closed it. And it goes back to either you end something or it ends itself. And I think by 2012, I went to Fashion Week Toronto, and somehow I saw Fashion Week from a different angle. It was not this exciting thing anymore. It was like, it's a bit redundant. I've been to New York Fashion Week, and I'm not seeing what I felt when I went to New York, that heartbeat, the pulse, that feels like people are literally pouring their whole self in, and they believe something good's going to come from it. And it was very hard to explain, but I felt like a lot of people were getting, it's an energy thing. People were almost tired of pushing something that wasn't necessarily going places. For
I feel like I'm listening to Rashi talk. I feel like I've heard this before.
Because it's real. It's real.
I'm telling
you, it's real. I remember feeling that, okay, I always I'm going to go back to it, making an impact and making a positive difference. And I felt that I was no longer, at least in my view, participating into a positive, impactful movement. And I felt that I was writing articles because that's what I was supposed to do versus what was really going to make a difference. And Fashion Unfold became such a central part and focus that I had more fun preparing Fashion Unfold than running the blog. Now, in hindsight, and one of my mentor that I follow and listen to had said that whenever you're doing something that you're very passionate about, and suddenly you become drained and tired, it doesn't, or not as interested, it doesn't mean that this thing is no longer good. It means it's no longer good for you, that perhaps it's time to pull someone in who is at that exciting stage of their life career to hop on so you can do the next thing, so you continue to grow. Just as a basic example, if you're in high school and you've passed all your class and it's great, but then you're still repeating the same class every year, you're ready for university, you're ready for college, you're ready for a job, the classes are becoming redundant because you've done it, you know what the answer to the test is. It's no longer challenging and you're not growing anymore. And I think now I recognize better when I'm no longer growing. So I challenge myself to grow differently. So closing the blog was part, I'm not growing anymore. 2, I'm not challenged anymore. And 3, I don't see objectively where this can actually lead to more, right? Now, anyone could say, well, perhaps it's the environment, who you're connected to, that also plays a huge role.
Yeah.
If you're around you, it wasn't like in New York where bloggers were actually making money, and I'm talking pre-influencer marketing days. It became more like, okay, well, what are you going to do this for? And I remember being approached by a media company in Quebec who was approaching all the bloggers to buy their readership, to grow their, it's like, I'll give a fictitious name, Magazine O, okay, reached out to all the bloggers and said, we'd love to, enroll you in a affiliate program where we run ads on your platform, and up until whatever, you're going to pay this, that. I read the whole contract. I was super excited. That was just before I closed the blog. I was so excited. I was like, this is it. This is what I was waiting for. Instead of closing, this is going to be my avenue. I can partner with this big media company and make something better of the blog. I read the contract, and what I understood was, well, you're going to get my readership numbers to grow your own so you can negotiate bigger ads with Dior and Bulgari and everybody. But on my end, until I reach a certain cap to make my first $500, I'm not getting anything at all. So I'm basically giving you my platform for free so you can gain more dollars, and I'll have to wait and hope and see how things turn out for me. I was like, okay, how about I come back to them with a different, like a counter offer? So I drafted my counter offer. I had a friend lawyer to review it for me. I bring it to them, and they said, no. I was like, oh, so you're not interested in this counter offer, which I think is very fair. No, I was like, okay, well then I'm not doing it. I just walked out. I walked out, and I thought, I don't want to play this game, and I don't think I want to push the blog to that point. So I'm just ready for something else. So the grieving part of closing the blog was the process had started a year before it actually happened. So when I closed it, it was more like, okay, it's finished. Now what's next? And quite frankly, when I closed, I had no idea what was next. I just knew that this couldn't continue. And it was hard because, yes, it's your identity. It was a nickname of mine. So it's almost like, oh my God, people would still call me Miss Life long after the blog was gone. And I had to be at peace with ending it. Even when people kept coming to me, oh, you're not blogging anymore? Are you still a blogger? Do you blog? I was like, blogging was something I did. It's not who I am. Okay. I'm Noelly Sam, and I love writing. I love beautiful clothes. I love amazing food, and I love design. I love life, and I love beauty. And I will always do that in different capacity. Blogging was one form, one manifestation of that. That's it. It's done. What's next? So I've always been comfortable enough to accept the next step, but also aware that it hurts, and you have to go through the hurting process. But life goes on. Life is long, right? So don't drag yourself on things that happen, and try to just focus on what's next for you.
And I think at that point, what was also happening was Fashion Unfold was growing. It was growing, the excitement. I think we wanted to make it more and more professional in terms of branding, in terms of how we wanted people to respond to it. And I think that's where I was getting excited all the time. And I kept wanting to push it bigger and bigger. And then somehow we decided, let's do Fashion Unfold in New York.
Why not?
Let's do it online, like how it was normally done, but let's also do it in person, where we're having an in-person conversation, and at the same time we're on Twitter, and we're running it on Twitter, just at a different time zone. And you were in Montreal, I was in Toronto, Daryl was in Vancouver, and we all ended up in New York. And we launched the brand, the new black and white branding of it. It was red originally. Maybe like 5 minutes before, or like half an hour before our actual Twitter conversation, and there was a little bit of technical difficulties, but so what made you want to do that? So I know how that happened, but what made you want to say, okay, let's bring Fashion Unfold to New York and do it in person when it's been such an online thing for so long?
Well, number one is, wow, that takes me back. That was 2014.
That was 2015, because I remember that, because I was working here full time, and then I showed up to work with a lot of wine in my system from the night before, because we didn't sleep that night. I maybe passed out for like 30 minutes after the pizza, but we didn't sleep that night. And at 5 o'clock, we were running to find my hair straightener that I still have, by the way. I'm going to throw it in my carry-on.
Wow. What made me do this? Well, I think it's interesting because, yes, Fashion Unfold was an online discussion, but it started from a question that happened in real life. That's number one. It was always a real life situation, real life topic that we bring online. And again, online is a medium that we use, but the conversations are real, and it's real people. And if you remember, we had done 2 or few luncheon already in person in Montreal. Yeah. So for me, the activation of Fashion Unfold in person was just a logical step. Now, why New York? Because hello, if you're a few steps from New York, and New York is the central heartbeat of fashion, you should go there. And Fashion Unfold had already experienced New York when I did a first live Fashion Unfold. New York Fashion Week, guerrilla style, no ticket, no invite. I just said, I think I'm dressed good. If I walk in, they're not going to stop me. They didn't. I walked into the tent at New York Fashion Week. I end up there, and I meet people that were unfolders, and connecting with them. We ended up in the Pepsi Lounge and did a live Fashion Unfold from the Pepsi Lounge at New York Fashion Week. No plan. It was just like, we're going to do it. So I already had sort of broken the ice of, it's New York, but what the hell? Why not? So to do it in New York was because, number one, it's fun. And having talked with different people, a lot of people I wanted to interview or at least have in person were all in New York. So it made sense that I would be the person to go there. And I remember telling Rashi, okay, Rashi, so let's have a Fashion Unfold roundtable in New York. What? Okay, yeah, I'm down. How are we going to do it? We'll figure it out. Yeah. You know what? When you have a good idea and I think a vision that is impacting more people positively than yourself, help will come. It's not a good business strategy, but it's a good head start, you know? And so we ended up in New York. connecting with other unfolders, I ended up getting a hookup at WeWork on
which
Wall
was
Street.
which was not in Canada at that moment.
It was
Yeah,
not
it
in
was not there.
No, it was, I mean, WeWork came here in late 2016. That was early 2015. So we ended up at WeWork with a card, and we're like, wow, Montreal needs this, right? This stuff, and now it's here, and now it knows what's going to happen. But we did the Fashion Unfold launch, revealing the new branding, which Rashi had helped work on with her, I forgot his name.
With my partner then.
And he was like, he did the branding, the visual, and we ended up releasing it at New York and
In New York.
on Wall Street nonetheless, having great partners there. And things happen very quickly when you are in an environment where everybody is hustling.
Yeah.
Right there in that room was discussed, okay, how do we get drinks, alcohol? Okay, we got a food, alcohol sponsor within minutes, within New York minutes, okay?
Literally.
Everybody is such on a high hustle level that everybody has something to bring to the table. And that's what I felt whenever I would come back to Montreal. The level of energy field was so different.
Yeah.
Not that you want to make Montreal or Toronto, New York, because you shouldn't, because that's going to make you miserable. If you enjoy the slow pace of Montreal for what it is, you will have a great time. And if you enjoy the fast pace of New York, you'll have an amazing time. So don't compare it, but recognize how different they are. So we did the Fashion Unfold release and reveal of the branding, and we had a great roundtable that ended up in the wee hours with pizza and wine, New York style, on the couch. WeWork, Rashi falling asleep. The top, I'm not even going to say the name, but this top model who is she's not transgender. She's just, no, she's
like,
they are identifying as male or female, huge now in the community, like over, I think, 500,000 followers on Instagram. Was there with us. We're just chilling at the time, and has a major crush on Rashi. And Rashi's a sweetheart, because we're being like we did this thing, and we were on a high for like weeks.
Yes, we were.
The conversation happened live and in person, and it was so much to manage that when we were done, we crashed, and it was just like, my goodness, we finished and we're alive. So that's good. Definitely one of my best, most favorite moments of trusting your gut, having a vision, finding the right team, and going for it. Literally, that's what it was. I could not have done it alone. And everyone brought something to the table that made it the huge moment it was. And then coming back from it, I was like, okay, I don't feel bad closing the blog anymore, because once the blog was closed a year after Fashion Unfold won the award, and then New York, and then the party, the event. So it was like, I made the right decision. And usually that's what you're going to find out. If you trust to end something, it hurts, it's painful, you wish you didn't. But that means that you're making room for more. Because if you hold on to what's no longer working, it's okay, but you're basically blocking the way for newness to come in. And sometimes that new thing is better. But you have to trust to have nothing for a while and let something come in. So I think that if it wasn't for Miss Sly, there wouldn't be Fashion Unfold. If it wasn't no Fashion Unfold, there would be no Unfolden Media. Because even when I looked at the name for the company, I was like, what am I going to call my company? I don't want to call it Noelly or whatever. And I was like, oh, unfolding, that's what I do. And I went into the definition of the word and realized that in the older days, like 1400s, the word was actually unfolden. And then with evolution of language, they removed the en, so it's just unfold now. And I thought, I think I'm going to use that because it's so ancient, but it also ties into what I do today. So I'll keep that. And Unfolden Media is really a result of everything I've done, from corporate to blogging to Fashion Unfold. So everything's tied. Just have to, in hindsight, you say, oh, I see how they're connected. But when it happens, you're just like, oh gosh, Jesus, take the wheel.
There's one thing I will point out though, and I do want to touch on a little bit, is I'm gonna bring this back to our New York experience, because what we achieved and did back then, and this is not to come off in a cocky way, but at that moment, at that time, for what we wanted to do, we were the best at what we were doing. And when you come back from that high and you come back from that like vibration, you are growing. But I think where I started to, and again, now when I look back in hindsight, what I was suffering from is that I wasn't getting that vibration in Toronto. I was excited in Toronto because I was still very new here. It was 2015 when that happened. I had been in Toronto for a year. I was slowly starting to build myself from scratch. I didn't, know anybody. I didn't have all the access that I have today, but it gave me the push to build myself in Toronto. But at the same time, I think I was so hungry to feel that New York vibe all over again, which I didn't get until I did New York Fashion Week last year. And then I came back. But I think what was happening at that moment was I started to suffer because I was like, what the hell am I doing? And then I started to miss our Fashion Unfold moments and all that growth that happened. And what I will, always tell listeners, as you're growing, you need to be aware of where you feel where you feel that you may not be vibrating at that moment. Like if you feel you are in a low vibration or this is not what you want, start admitting that to yourself and recognize it. And it's okay to outgrow certain people,
That's life,
certain things.
Grow because you're growing. So that's normal.
But yes, that was just something I felt so strongly that I need to point it out, because I know I went through that for the last 4 years, and now I'm just now I can recognize what works for me, what doesn't. But it took a lot of ups and downs. But what it did also do is when Fashion Unfold started evolving mid-2018. So after we came back from New York, it was still going on strong. We did the events. I think you broke your arm 2016.
I fractured my elbow. Who does
that?
I don't know.
That's you. And that's why you did that.
I do. I've broken bones too.
It's so painful.
So painful.
And I think this is where both you and I grew as well, because I get this call and she's like, so Rashi, I fractured my wrist and we have Fashion Unfold next week or something. It was like a very close tight line. So I'm like, sure.
A week before.
Okay, so 7 days notice I'm getting, by the way. So I'm just like, sure, so how do you want me to help you? And I'm very, very naively asking this question, despite all my experiences with her. So how do you want me to help you?
Don't do that with me. I'll dump it all on you.
And her response was, yeah, so you're going to take over and just create all the posts and the media and the marketing and the questions, and then I'll give you the login. And I was just like, sure.
Don't call me, I'll call you.
Well, I mean, I think that was 2016, literally a year after. And when it happened, I remember thinking, oh gosh, it's still happening while I'm simultaneously already freelancing and managing social media for different clients. And I thought, I never stop it. It never once stopped. And that's something that I want to point out about consistency. Fashion Unfold became what it became because of compound
consistency.
It was just a compounding effect. Nothing greater than anybody else. It was just, when I say it's happening once a month, come hell or high water, sick or not, it happens. If I die, someone has to do it. Like it just, that was the mindset. And I never before in my life been so consistent about something. And that's why Fashion Unfold continued, because it was so consistent. So yeah, when I fractured my elbow, I wasn't thinking of, oh, I'm going to tell them that it's not happening because I fractured my elbow. I'm like, no, someone's going to do it. And if no one can do it, I'll do it. Like I'll do it from my bed and I'll be okay. I'll use the arm that's not fractured. It hurts. I mean, like painkillers, I'll be fine. They'll be fine. So it was the mindset. So for me, that's 2016. And I continued until 2017, but you always have to recognize when, like you talked about where you don't vibrate, you have to recognize when it's time to move on. Mm-hmm. When it's time to either improve or end something. And in 2017, as I was focusing more and more on agency servicing clients, I started and then Twitter also started to lose hype. And I mean, Twitter is still going to be Twitter, but as far as being the central point of social media conversation, Twitter was losing to Snapchat. Twitter was losing to Instagram, to even Facebook, for crying out loud. And I thought, okay, and I could see, like, yes, we went like this, and then it started to go down. So you have to recognize, is it going down because it's no longer good, or is it going down because things are shifting?
Yeah.
And to recognize that it's because there's a shift, then you have to be okay to shift with things, because you still have a good product. But if you still sell your lemonade and no one's buying it because there's no more traffic, because at some point they were building a hospital and now the traffic is gone because they fixed it, and you still go there with your lemonade stain, it's not that your lemonade is not good anymore, but no one's coming to buy because there's no traffic, right? And so I had to recognize by 2017 that I was coming to the end of my passion of running it the way it was growing. And I was ready to close it, completely finish, end it. I was like, oh, you know, we've had a good run. But I was like, okay, let me just see what happens for another few months. And that's when we connected with the Montreal Fashion Bureau and ended up in Las Vegas for the show, at the Magic Show, to host the event because I allowed Fashion Unfold to be more than just the online platform where I would be asked to do in-person panel discussions. So for me, I was like,
that.
Great. That's exactly what I want Fashion Unfold to do. Panel discussion with industry makers and influencers in person at events that I don't have to organize. Great. So we ended up at the Magic Show. And when we were at the Magic Show, it was amazing. But even then I could recognize that it's not necessarily the format I want, but it's a good format, but it's not what I want to grow into. And just as I was ready to close, like I closed my blog, I was ready to close that. But for the first, experience, right? Once you've done something once and you know that's not necessarily the best way, or there's better way to do it, I knew that Fashion Unfold could evolve outside of me differently, because the conversation itself is important, but I don't have to run it the way I did, and I don't even have to be the head of it, right? And I reached out to one unfolder who was having a conversation because we took a break after the 8 years. I was like, let's take a break. Let's take a break. Okay. I'm not sure when we're going to come back, how we are going to come back, but let's take a break and see. And during the break, I could see them complaining on Twitter. We miss it. Where is it? How come? Should we start something else? Oh my goodness. I was like, oh my goodness. When I closed the blog, nobody reached out to me. They said they missed it. Because that's when you know whether you have an impact or not, right? It was just like, oh, we're sad. You missed, you closed your blog. Oh, well. But that was like, you're really going to start Fashion Unfold? And I thought, okay. And after a conversation with my mentor and listening to something online where it was literally, when you close, you're really ready to close something, you may not need to. You may need to pass the torch. And
exactly.
And then when the person was speaking, they say, when I'm saying it, what's coming to your mind? I was like, Fashion Unfold. Okay. All right. So that's how I ended up on Twitter. And I saw that a week ago, they were all complaining. So I reached out to the top complainer. You complain about it. I hope you have a solution. And I said, hey, would you like to jump on a phone call quickly? Don't even know where they're located. Sure. It turns out it's a girl. She's in Vancouver. And I was like, all right, you've been on our debate for almost 2 years now. What do you miss about it? And she told me what she missed. And then as she's telling me what she misses about it, I'm like, oh, you're into it so bad. Like, you could run this thing. She's like, yeah, and the debate, the intellectualism and the passion and the fact that we can go in depth into what the industry is about. I miss having this. We need those intellectual conversations. I'm like, okay, would you want to, like, just like with Rashi, would you want to run it? I'm like, I'll give you the access for 1 month. Show me what you got. And then we'll talk. That's February 2019.
And it's still running.
I literally gave her the keys to the house. Here, go in, move in, make it your home, and let's see. After the first one she hosted, she was just like, oh my God, it's a lot of work. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that. I don't think anybody realized how much work running Fashion Unfold was. I ran it for a while, and then, we also both came to that conclusion where I'm focusing on other things and you're focusing on other things. But
it's needed a person that wanted to be full in. And I thought, the foundation is built. What you have to do now is take it from here to the next level.
The next level.
And it
Yeah.
will basically take you 5 years, because you're going to basically you're not going to start from scratch, but you're starting new. And I'm going to give you room to grow. And that's where the whole women empowerment comes in play, because for me, I believe that what you learn, you have to teach it and hope the student is better than you. And so we made the decision, with her doing really well on Twitter, to close the Twitter debate and move them to Instagram, where the platform would allow us to do different things. And I told her, this is year 10. Consider this year 0 for you, year 1 for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a year, like the 2019 was your sort of soft training, soft intro into it. And now 2020, with COVID and everything, you have the chance to turn Fashion Unfold into what it was always meant to be, a really strong platform that allows any conversation topic, but from the lens of the fashion industry, whether we're talking social justice, racism, influencer marketing, or sustainability, all these elements that really touch our world, consumerism, but from a fashion perspective with an intellectual approach. That's what you can do for the next 5-10 years. So she's very, very, right now she's actually in Edinburgh in Ireland, in Europe, and she's running Fashion Unfold there and dealing with people in in London and everything. And I'm the executive producer of it, but I'm not running it anymore. And I look forward to what comes next, because I recognize that my job, sometimes, even you with your podcast, you think you're building something for you, maybe not. You may be building something for someone else, or at least setting the stage for someone else to take it and run with it. And I told her straight up, I built Fashion Unfold so that you can have the career you want. And I did not know that. And I'm okay with that, right? So how can I support you to make Fashion Unfold the pillar of what you want to do in the industry later on? Because she's studying in like literacy and literature, English, and fashion. So it's like, let's do it. But today it's something that's part of me, but it doesn't define me. And that's
exactly. And it comes down to that
moment. I realize that I have to plug my computer, otherwise I'm going to lose you. And I'm probably going to have another 10-15 minutes, and then
why don't we take a quick break right here, just because we're at that time anyways.
Okay.
We can reset and come right back in. So we're having an amazing conversation. Welcome back to Elevated Grips. We're having an amazing conversation with Noelly Sam. Noelly, thank you so much for sharing so much of your insight, your story, and really opening up. Like you've gotten so personal, and I really enjoy the way you articulate your experiences, your learning, and your growth. Like I think a lot of us go through these different experiences, but being able to articulate it in the way that you have has really put it into perspective. I know, at least for myself, listening to you speak, it's really put it into perspective a lot of the personal growth that I've gone through, or we've gone through with our, like Rashi and I, with our projects. And I think you just have this way of articulating it that's just so understandable and relatable. So thank you so far for what you've shared.
I'm glad it's making somewhat of an impact. I'm glad.
So we before the break, we were talking about the growth of Fashion Unfold, and I'd like to continue that conversation. I understand that there's something to do with the color pink that we're going to get into, and the importance of that in your world, which is interesting. Colors plays a strong role in a lot of people's lives, so I want to hear your perspective on that. So actually, let's jump into that first.
Okay.
Sorry, I know I'm jumping a little bit, but let's talk.
That's fine.
Let's talk about the color pink.
Fashion Unfold, when we rebranded it in 2015, we went with something strong, very fashion, very New York, and it was black, which makes sense. And when it came time for me to have a company, because I believe that, okay, now I'm no longer a blogger, but I want to continue to be an entrepreneur, self-employed, I wanted to start a business where I could offer my service as a social media strategist, communicator, and, strategist. And I thought I was strongly looking for a name, and it took time. And finally, I thought, I like the word unfold because it's such a core of who I am as a person and as a professional. I like to go deep into things and understand and dig and basically unfold layers of what is presented to me. So I thought, okay, calling the company Unfold would make sense. I've done research because now I believe in market research. And I realized there were other companies that were called Unfold this or whatever. And I thought, let me go to the origin of the name. And I found that Unfolden was the origin of the word when it first came out in the 1400s. And then I said, okay, I'm going to keep that. So now I went into branding. Okay, I'm going to have a company called Unfolden Media, but the branding, what is it going to be? And at the time, that's me 2016, early 2017, I started to think of colors. And I wake up very early. I usually wake up at 4. That's even before the baby. Sometimes if I stay up very late, I work until 3 a.m. or I wake up early. So usually at 5 a.m. my day starts. And I would go on the balcony outside and do my journaling, my meditating, my praying. And it would be at the beginning of the day as the sun rises. And so simple, super simple, it's the colors of the blending of the colors of the sky as the sun rises was a blend of blue and a little bit of pink. And I love that. I thought it was very peaceful and it's almost the beginning of things. And I thought, okay, I like this blend. So I went with a pastel color and my whole wardrobe. It was not even like, oh, I'm going to brand myself. It was just like what I resonated with. Soft palette that would be easy on the eye, but also very high end. And so I thought, okay, a mix of nice blue, almost turquoise-ish with pink. And that's before I even knew about the Millionaire pink. Like, it was just like intuition, instinct, and inspiration. And I saw, okay, pink and the turquoise blue and the soft gray will be a nice palette for my business. And that's how I launched Unfolden Media as a social media agency in 2017 with those colors. And then gradually, when I launched the company and I continued my work, it's as if I started to be pulled towards pink. Don't even ask me how, I can't even explain it, right? Interestingly enough, a year after all these colors are picked, I expect my first child and only child, and I didn't want to find out the sex of my child. I was just like, it's not important, when it will get there, we'll see the baby, we'll know. Everybody in my family freaked out because they want to know, and I'm not trying to find out. So I found out I was having a girl when she came out, and I was like, okay, well, I have a girl, that's good. And pink was already part of my word. It's almost as if she prepared, in a way, her stage to come in. And when I decided to do more pink, it was just, I loved it. I thought it was a beautiful color. It's very classy. And there was so many items out there that you could purchase in nice pink, not bubble gum puke pink. I'm talking nice, soft pink shades that are salmon sometimes, or even powder pink. I just loved it. And I thought, this is, very nice. And I started to implement it in everything I did. And before you know it, it just started to take over my entire world. My closet, my kitchen is pink, my accessories, my workspace, everything. And I thought, okay, I like this a lot. And I started to read about it. And it's obviously a color that's really, for the female market, but it also means unconditional love. Mm-hmm. Funny enough, that's the only tattoo I have. Love is unconditional. I had it tattooed in 2008. So it's not even something that's now. And it's like, wait a minute. So I had the actual definition of the color pink tattooed on me before this even happened. Now that's when your life is not even in your control most of the time. But I just realized that pink resonated so much with the calmness that I wanted to bring to everything I do. And I believe in women so much, and empowering women even more, that when I had my girl, I realized that I had a responsibility to make the world better for the women of our generation. It's like, we have it okay, but it should be better for you. And if I can contribute to this, then this is how I'm going to do it. And pink, when I launched the podcast, Boss Women Unfold, it was a no-brainer. It's like, all right, it's obviously, we're going to go in different shades of pink. The end. It's for women, but I want to be pink strong. Pink doesn't mean soft, doesn't mean you can stand your own ground. It's strong, but it's also not afraid to be feminine, mm-hmm. and solid, but it's also soft. It can be calming and reassuring. At the same time, it can be firm, right? If I do, let's say, my relationship with Rashi, it was always nurturing, and I always wanted to see the best of her. But when things need to get done, I would not be afraid to be hard because we need mm-hmm. to get it done. And then we're going to have, a nice brunch. And when she came to my place for a brunch for her birthday, actually, because I invited her for her birthday, and I was like, this is not for work. It's just us women having a good time. She was like, Noelly, there's so much pink in your interior. I didn't see this coming. I was like, don't you love it? Isn't it great? Like pink world, But I think that, I don't know, like, it just made sense. And because it was not a calculated move, it wasn't, this is a color that's going to bring me this and that. it just made sense. Unlike for numbers, like sometimes I get very anal about numbers, and when I picked my phone number, I intentionally wanted a number that ended with 8 because 8 is a great number for numbers and results and money. So yeah, my phone number, last 3 digits are like a 888. I was like, that's right, make that moolah. But anyways, I think that's the whole thing, right? It's just following your flow, being very in tune with yourself, and trusting that ideas and prompting that you get are good for you. They're good for you, and I think we get so caught up in everybody else's opinions and what's good, what's working, what's the algorithm saying, and what are the top things that This is great. But in the end, are you aligned with yourself that regardless of what direction you take, it's going to be genuine and authentic? And for me, I think taking time, even launching the podcast, wasn't a strategic move. It was a logical decision based on my discussion with myself, journaling, meditating, and saying, okay, I want to have those conversations, and I will benefit a lot from these women who have accomplished so much. I don't want to keep it to myself. I'll share it with other people. And that's why I appreciate, coming on podcasts of all kinds, because I know what it takes to put your heart out, to do something you believe in, and to not know how it's going to pan out. So if I can support, that's what I want to do. And I think, to sum it up, I think pink sums up really my soul's color. Like, I'm really supportive of others. I really believe and love women and all human beings. And I want the best for everyone. So I'll be, in pink, you have shades of red, and white is just diluted. So if things get there, I'll get the red out. But come out. And that's also one of the reasons why I had to change my hair. I just didn't feel the need. I didn't feel the need to be so aggressive anymore. It's like, you don't have nothing to prove, baby. You're okay. Just be.
So just really quickly to our listeners, for the longest time, Noelly had fiery red big hair. Yeah. Fiery red big hair. You could not miss her if she walked into a room. She walked in and she was there.
Yeah, and before the big red hair, it was the headpieces at Fashion Week. I always had something that would be the attention grabber, not intentionally, but that's just the energy that
you were giving out.
And now it's like, it's all good. Like, I literally need little because I'm so at peace. And that doesn't mean I've achieved what I want to achieve. It just means that I realize now that it's my own race.
And it's that quiet strength, right? And I think the biggest takeaway from this conversation is, once you learn to let go, but still believe in what you're doing and what you want to achieve, but you kind of know, when to get detached from things, but yet when to have your heart into it, when to know you are good at what you're doing, and when to know when you're not good at what you're doing. That aggressiveness, that boldness is still there, but I think it slowly evolves into being a quiet strength. Like, you don't need to walk in that way.
I think you need at the beginning of anything, especially when you're going to make your mark, leave room for yourself. There's almost no room to play soft. Go in, go bold, go big, go naive, but it's seasonal, right? There are seasons in your life that will require you to be very, very aggressive, because that's just the season you're in. And some other season, you'll need to chill, and you have to be okay with the flow. Right now, it wouldn't make sense for me to be super go-getter, aggressive, when I'm trying to raise a kind, capable human being. So I have to temper my energy to cater to my child as well. But at the same time, I now have to shift. I know when I can put it on and off. And I also think that you grow into yourself by accepting yourself. Accepting that you don't need to perform to be accepted. You shouldn't have to perform, because it's very draining. And if you start to be okay with who you are, everything else will flow, and you will have more energy to do things right and well, because you're not putting energy to put this facade or go to this event that you didn't really want to attend, or say yes to this commitment you really didn't want to say, but you had to because no, you have one life. Make sure you live it as authentically as possible. And as comfortably as possible for you. So for me, it's just, I completely understand where I come from and I know where I'm going. And the key to close is know that you're playing a long game.
Yeah.
It's a long game. I can't compete with people who are where they are if I look at what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to lose. I'll lose because it's like, it's impossible to achieve that tomorrow. But if I say, okay, 5 years from now, this is where I think I can be, then I give myself time. Then it's okay if I take 2 months to build something and then launch it, because I'm not in the urgency of tomorrow it has to be ready. You live in the urgency of your life, playing the long game and the longevity, so that you build something that can stand the test of time. And I think I've had so many outbursts of quick, up and down, that now I'm like, listen, it doesn't have to be that way. Take your time, do it right, do it well, and pace yourself. And also enjoy as you're doing it. You know, I've finished the first season of the podcast. I'm not putting pressure on myself to do the second season, although we will. But it's like, did I really, in other words, milk the content of season 1 as much? Is there ways that I can, repurpose that and really learn from it, go back into my recording and improve certain things and study my own craft before I rush into something else? You know, all this would not have happened 5 years ago. So it's just, I'm comfortable with different pace in different season now, and that's what matters. That's it.
Sadra, you can take this. Because I'm going to have a lot of emotions coming up.
I was just gonna say, I felt like there's some tears about to come out.
Oh,
Watching Rashi.
Yeah. Mine are, I'm like trying to be like very professional at the moment and not let them come out. But during the entire podcast, I was blinking back a lot of tears, because it's really looking at the growth, but it's also, you know, like you said, you start to accept yourself in certain ways. You like look back, you're like, I did all this, I'm capable of doing that. That sense of empowerment does come back to you, which we all needed as human beings. But you're also just grateful. Like I was like listening to these past 10 years in a nutshell, and I was just like, I'm so fucking grateful. Like I can sit here today and just look and be like, if I don't get to where I want to in my life, at least I've done all of this. I have something to leave behind, you know?
You did. And I think that's, everybody should have a podcast. Everybody should have an audiobook or writing, like a journal, because everybody lives a life that's worth giving lessons for others.
Yeah.
And it's not about, I'm going to be the New York bestseller. If you happen to be that, that's great. It's so many elements that come in play to make it happen. But to have at least one person that says, oh my God, you know what? I needed to read that, or I'm so glad you shared this. That's what life is about, right?
Yep.
At your level, impact whoever you can. And if it gets to more than 100 people and more than 100,000, you have no control over that. But just do your best. And that's why I love Rafael Nadal, side note, best player in the world, in my opinion, because every time you interview this guy, no matter what he's accomplished, so what was your secret? How did you focus on today's game? Just trying my best. Oh, that's it? Trying my best.
Yeah, he's
every
very
ball,
humble.
every ball, every point like match point. Every point like match point. If you do it like this, compounding interest, yeah, you're gonna win a lot.
Yeah.
So that's my approach. It's every day like game day, but in a calm way. Just every post like your last post. Every conversation, every interview like your last interview. Make it count. That's it.
That's incredible. So much for all your insight, your experience, and all your wise words. It seems like all these experiences you've lived a lifetime that people just, you know, they can only dream to live, because it just, the way you articulate it is just, like I said, it's so clear, and the perspective really comes out.
Oh, thank you. That's a lot of hardship, hon. It's, you go through life, you come out with scars, and you say, yep, this battle almost killed me. But here I am to tell you about it. Don't go there. Don't do this. You know.
I like to say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
It does. If it doesn't make you stronger, then, you know, at least you're braver.
That's
and
Yeah.
smarter. Yeah. That's it.
Awesome. So really, thank you again so much. This was great to have you. We'll definitely have you on the show again as you go through some new experiences, and we get to hear your perspective on those experiences.
Thank you. I'd love
And to our listeners, we're going to drop the description of where you can find all the information about Noelly, Sam, down in our description. So make sure you check out her Instagram, check out all her information, and follow her journey as she continues to go through it.
And little side note, because I like to put pressure on myself. For the first time in all this I've ever done, I'm actually going to have a website under my name and
Okay.
launch it at the beginning of October. So you have a first inside, because now I have like accountability, public accountability.
Absolutely, you do.
There you
This is
go.
another trick. Find accountable partners to get things done. Put pressure on yourself in a gentle way. I'm saying this because I'm like 70% done, so I'm okay there. Yes, I have a website that's not about what I do, but it's who I am and what I want to leave as my contribution to the world eventually.
We look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, well, I look forward to finish it.
Absolutely. Noelly, thank
All
you
right.
again so much.
Thank you so much.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you next week on Elevated Grapes.
Bye.
Hey guys, thank you for watching that podcast or that video. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more of us and see some of our behind the scenes stuff, subscribe below.
Yes, hit that little red, button thingy that's over there and hit subscribe and keep following us for a lot more cool, fun stuff.
Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you soon.